at 9 p.m. every Tuesday on Family TV as we explore different topics and make attempts to answer the different life topics. Every Tuesday with me, Emmanuel Odeke. Let's talk. Good evening to all of you, our dear viewers. It is amazing and exciting that we can again catch up here on Church of Uganda Family TV, where we enrich lives. And my name is Emmanuel Odeke, the host of Let's Talk. How about we say it has been a good day for some people, but for those who have had a tough time, we still believe God will strengthen you and take you forward through all the endeavors. Today it is amazing. We'll be looking at complete education for a complete person. Sometimes we go to school and we think going through the system is getting educated. So we want to understand factors that may rally behind that. Perhaps in the news all over on social media, the Minister of Education and Sports says it is okay for those who are in P6 to sit for PLE. It is okay for those who are in Senior 3 to sit for UCE. Will it really produce the rightful persons for the universities, for the advanced level of secondary? We'll be looking at all that as we move on in the show. Today I'm excited and happy to host the Reverend, who happens to be a scholar. He's a good friend. It's called Reverend Walter Apunye, who comes to us all the way from a chapel which is found along Lugogo Bypass, Women's Education Center. So he's one of those who I will be hosting, and then we expect another person to be joining us in the names of Reverend Francis Osire. And that is, we'll be moving on with the show. Reverend Walter, would you like to say hello to our viewers?
Thank you so much, Emma. A very good evening to you all, dear viewers, and praise the Lord. It is an exciting moment for us to be here as we discuss on this topic of a complete education for a complete person. I hope we shall have a great time together. Thank you.
That is Reverend Walter for you, or to my right is Reverend Francis Osire. He's still stuck to his mask, but it is okay. Reverend Francis, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Sometimes he calls himself Pastor Osire, and only Reverend who was once a drunkard and now a preacher of the gospel. Reverend Francis, say hello to our viewers.
Hello viewers, praise the Lord. Thank you for tuning in. My prayer is that we will have meaningful time, and don't touch the dial. God bless you. And thank you, Emma, for welcoming me. I found being very sarcastic.
But anyway, those are always light moments that we get with people we have met for some time. Reverend Francis, the Minister of Education declared recently and said those in P6 can sit for PLE, and those in UCE, in Senior 3 can sit for UCE.
Yes.
Do we see a good product from this generation of COVID?
Yes and no. Why yes? First of all, I want to look at education from a tripartite point of view. As the role of the learner, primarily, because he or she is the direct beneficiary, and then also as the role of a parent, and also as the role of the teacher or the school. So the parent represents the home or the family. So I want to say, because we have been in lockdown for 2 years, so if somebody has been in P6 and was very keen and really got support from the parents and from maybe what was being offered through the media, like I saw sessions on the television, newspapers, radio, all over. There was something. So I am thinking that for the last 2 years, if somebody who was previously in P6 was very keen and went through that, I am almost sure that why I have said yes is that then that person should really be ready and can do. But on the other hand, there are some limitations, and then maybe there are some people who just took it, both the learners themselves, maybe the parents also, and I hear there are teachers who decided to take up other responsibilities or other jobs. And so if the parents have not been keen, if the learner himself or herself has not been keen, then maybe in such a situation, I will say no. So my answer is both yes and no. For those reasons, for now, let me leave it. Let me leave it to that.
It is interesting where you tell us in church that there is heaven and hell and there is nothing between, but today you've fallen between there. But it is okay, it is okay. Reverend Walter, we are looking at education. Reverend Osire just made mention of the role of the learners.
Yes.
What happens in a state where some learners are saying, I think this education is not very serious, and they're actually asking to study part-time and go and attend to their businesses that they had started? Does that suggest that the role of the learner has been dwindled with? What happens?
Well, I think to answer your question, we need to go back to the topic that we are handling at this moment. We are talking about a complete education for a complete person. And when we look at a complete education, I think the mistake that we make today is that most of our education systems are geared towards passing exams. And if you are to consider it from that angle, just as Reverend Francis has been saying, if a student plays his or her cards very well, can pass exams. But are we just looking at this person passing exams and we say that the person is educated, attaining those papers and maybe probably getting a job? But when we talk about a complete education, of a whole person, I don't think we are just looking at the end result of someone passing exams. And if a student probably thinks that the education system is not all that and wants to balance with work and what have you, it still does not bring out the point of having a complete education. Now, a complete education is supposed to be something that is comprehensive, that does not only cover the intellectual aspect of a person's life, but a complete education should cover the intellectual, the physical, the spiritual, the emotional, and the social aspect of a person's life. And so, even the question of somebody jumping from maybe P6 to P7 to sit PLE, Senior 3 to Senior 4 to sit UCE, wouldn't be a problem if all these aspects had been considered in the education process. And so I would think that for such a person, trying to balance class and maybe work wouldn't be a problem if all these aspects were considered. Thank you.
Beautiful. Reverend Walter looks at it in a way and he says there should be a meeting point between the academia and the real market. Reverend Francis, you come to us from a university. Do these lecturers and deans of studies and all those senior men in the academic world, have they taken time to study the job market before they can come up with some of these courses and course units? Or it is a matter of pass through the system and then boo, you go and hunt and find your level out there?
What has happened in the recent past is that it has been realized. I may not be exact or specific, but institutions of higher learning have started to look at what we call hard skills alongside soft skills. Now, the hard skills are in line with the profession somebody is pursuing or the course that somebody is doing. But the soft skills make a learner or make a student a person who is an all-round character. And so coming from Makerere University Business School, one of the things I know for sure in my interaction with the academic staff is that there is continued research. I know that we have some of our lecturers or some of our academic staff members who are actually engaged in research and also helping certain organizations, some institutions, not only just developing their capacity, but looking inside. What are the issues that are either not working very well, that are either contributing to kind of a downward trend in that institution, organization, not being able to achieve what they would have loved. So if I was to say something about Makerere University Business School, there is an attempt to bring on board, alongside hard skills, to bring soft skills, to prepare a person like what he has talked about, complete, making person all round, but also helping a person to relate the theories with the practice, so that when somebody goes into the field, he or she is able to translate the theory he or she has learned from class into practice. And so part of what the students do is actually internship. Before you graduate from Makerere University Business School, for example, at bachelor's level, you are supposed to spend some time attached to a particular organization where you are exposed to the day-to-day operations, to the day-to-day running, to the day-to-day down-to-earth issues that institutions, that organizations are dealing or handling. And so there is an opportunity for internship. You can't graduate from Makerere University Business School unless you have gone through that process of internship. And when you are doing internship, you have your lecturer, one of your lecturers as your supervisors, but also at your workplace, they give you a supervisor. And at the end of that period of that time, they make you to write a report. So I can talk about Makerere University Business School and say yes. And that is why you find, I think Makerere University Business School has done quite well in the recent graduations at Makerere because of that. And then when you go into the job market, you will find a number of students who have graduated from Makerere University Business School in some of the key offices in this country and beyond. So I can say for MUBS, yes.
Why wouldn't you blow a trumpet for MUBS where you come from before you notice Reverend Walter?
I mean, I just want to be realistic. Not just blowing. And by the way, there is quite a lot of passion. And I mean, that is why you find up to this day, even some organizations take their people to MUBS, sometimes for a certain period of time, or some of the lecturers from MUBS go to organizations or to institutions to build their capacity. So it's not just, I would have told you I don't do.
Okay, well, catching up from just right there, Reverend Walter, in society today, you'll find a man and he'll tell you, me the man, you see, I have a degree. And he really has the degree, but he doesn't look the degree he's having. Why is it that the educated men and women today look and behave like the uneducated?
Well, I remember I mentioned earlier on that education is not supposed to only cover the intellectual part of it. You know, there is going to school, you study and you even pass with flying colors. You have a first-class degree, but just as Reverend Francis Osire has been saying, you go outside there and people don't see that first class in your performance. Simply because you were very good in, maybe cram work and doing your papers and passing them. But then, as you were studying, you failed to incorporate the other aspects of learning as part of you. From the social point of view, how was that education system able to transform the way you relate with people? How was it able to transform the way you think, the way you look at things? Because you get somebody who is having that degree outside there, but when it comes to interpersonal relationships, it is zero. That means that, yes, you studied, you got the academic papers and what have you, but the education process did not incorporate the social aspect of that person's life. And then maybe the spiritual angle of it, the emotional bit of it. And so when you're outside there, you think because of papers, you can do everything. And you get to realize that that is not actually what the community is expecting. A community wants somebody who is going to deliver, who is actually going to love what he or she is doing and love the people that he or she is serving. But such a person who only acquired the intellectual knowledge cannot be able to do things that the community is expecting. And you find yourself bragging but not delivering. So I believe that in the education process of such a person, the social aspect was missing. Maybe the emotional and other aspects were missing, but he only focused on the intellectual bit of it.
Maybe, Emma, just right there. Sometimes I ask myself about the kind of foundation which was laid. Okay? Mm-hmm. So, I don't know how many times we have changed the curriculum so far. As we talk now, for example, in O-level, there is a lower secondary curriculum. There is one for upper. Now, at one point, being involved in the management of some of the schools, in primary they transited from teaching subjects to teaching themes. Now, you have that kind of a scenario. Now, looking at that, for example, in primary when they changed it to teaching themes as opposed to subjects, the curriculum was rolled out, but there were no instructional materials. And I mean, you could see a teacher gambling, completely amiss and completely lost. And now today, when they rolled out that new curriculum for primary, I don't know how much instructional materials is available. And so it makes it difficult even for the teacher to prepare his scheme of work. And so I am not saying the policy makers or people who are responsible for making the curriculum. I want us to look at it because now we are looking at the end product. But how did we make this end product? And I think that is one of the things, when we started to have universal primary education, then universal secondary education, I mean the numbers. And I mean, there were numbers. There was automatic promotion. Now, all that has a place. So maybe we need to begin to look inward and begin to say, how can we clean this up so that the end, because now we are looking at the end product, so that we can produce people who we know are actually able to do more than even what they are given. You can get somebody who is self-motivated. You are able to get somebody who is able to communicate. You are able to get somebody who is able to express himself, express herself. Somebody who is able to see a problem before it happens. You know, most of the time we are just reactionary. And we want to begin to look for solutions when a problem has occurred. So, that's why I'm talking about foundation. What kind of foundation have we laid as a nation? And I am talking to Uganda. I'm now not talking to individuals. I'm not talking to the ministry. I am talking to Uganda.
And in relationship to that, I want to believe that when we are talking about education, there are different stakeholders that are involved. Let us not only look at the teachers per se. He mentioned something earlier on about the role of a student the role of the parents or the family, and then the role of the teachers, but then the community. Let me also add it there. And so, when we are to have, an end result of somebody who has been through the system, you get to realize that the family had a role to play. The challenge that we have today is that we are too busy to attend to our children. You get to realize that we have surrendered the role of teaching to basically teachers at school. And so the parent wakes up and is thinking only about how to make more money and maybe, be able to handle the bills, to pay the tuition and all these other things. But you get to realize that the parent is not playing his or her part in the upbringing of the child, because some of these things are learned informally from home. And so there is informal education, but there is also formal education. We need not to forget about the informal bit of it, where the parent has the role, and then the community has a role to play in the life of a person, and then the teachers also play their role. At the end of it all, we shall have a person who has gone through this all round, and at the end delivers something that is productive. Thank you.
Reverend Walter just knocked something that we are going to look at deeply when we get to our next segment. But just before we dash for a small break, Reverend Francis, what would be the exact role of a parent in the aspect of education?
Thank you very much, and I'm happy that you have asked a parent. Besides being a pastor or a church leader, actually, primarily, I am a husband to one female wife and also a parent to 4 biological children and a number of others. And allow me to say, I think I don't want to speculate, but if you look at the Education Act, it spells very clearly the role of a parent or a guardian, not just only a parent, but a guardian. If you look at the Education Act, it says the responsibilities of a parent and a guardian. 1, providing parental guidance, psychosocial welfare to the children, registering the children of school-going age at school, and then providing food, clothing, shelter, medical care, and transport, promoting moral, spiritual, and cultural growth of the children, participating in the promotion of discipline and of the discipline of their children, participating in the community support to the school, and then finally participating in the development and review of the curriculum. Moderator, I may request just to find out from our viewers this evening, our parents, how many of them know that actually now the Ministry of Education is in the process of reviewing the curriculum. Now parents think they are transferring their work to them, but it is spelled out in the Education Act.
It is amazing how parents don't know that they are supposed to take part in the formation of the curriculum. Yeah, well, we are due for a short break, so we'll be back shortly after this, while we'll be looking at the informal education and then the technology that we have today vis-a-vis education today. We'll be back shortly. Don't tamper with your dial.
Whether it is Katogo, Chikomando, Rolex Majasa to Nyanya Mbisi. Man, wherever I am, I enjoy you with your TV channels on my phone.
Nyumiro omurembo omupya ogujjudde ebisanyusa omuli emikutu gya TV egisukka mu 8 n'egya radio nga kwotadde ne zifirimu ng'osinziirira wonna w'oli. Genda mu App Store oteeke app ya yo TV channels ku simu yo olwo onyumirwa ennaku 3 ng'olabira bwereere ewatali kozesa data.
Yo TV channels, the power is in your hands.
Do you have a business that you are looking to grow? Advertising with Church of Uganda Family TV is the way to go. We are located on Church House, level 13, along Kampala Road. We offer favorable rates and an extremely creative production team that will work with you to take your business to the next level. To give us a ring, call us on 0781 084215 or 0750 655232. Church of Uganda Family TV, enriching lives.
Good morning, Uganda. Thank you so much for waking up with us.
Good morning, our people. Let me hope you've woken up this morning.
Follow us on our social media platforms. That is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. That is at Church of Uganda Family TV. That is COU Family TV on all our social media platforms with the hashtag Morning Glory.
Let's talk.
Let's talk. Let's Talk is an uncensored program on Family TV that attempts to answer questions that are unanswered within our church settings. Questions like sex and money, drugs and alcoholism, prophecy and prophets in our country. So, catch us at 9 p.m. every Tuesday on Family TV as we explore different topics and make attempts to answer the different life topics. Every Tuesday with me, Emmanuel Odeke. Let's talk. Welcome back from that short break. Perhaps as we're still chatting behind the scenes here of a scene and the scene. Well, we are still making sense of complete education for a complete person. It is one thing to be educated, but it is another thing to be learned. You can have a degree, but then when you have not learned anything, go through a system and you come out the way you were, but having a paper that can be produced from NASA Road. The only difference between somebody who has gone through a university and that one who went to NASA is that the outcome, the practice, what is seen after, should be able to explain to the rest without you telling them you have a degree or so. So don't assume that you can get a degree from NASA. There are other things that should explain that you have a degree or a master's or a PhD. My friend Francis tells me it should be a permanent head damage. Reverend Francis, for somebody to get to a university, there should have been proper guidance. And I want to think that trouble starts from O level. If a student is not guided well, what happens when they get up there?
Wow. Thank you very much. Now, that is actually one of the things, partially, I sometimes engage myself in career counseling or career guidance sessions. And I have found that it is a little bit very, very unfortunate that many people actually tend to think that career guidance begins at secondary school. My own take is that let career guidance begin from home. Let's begin when the children are young. Ask them, what do they want to do in the future? Ask them, where do they want to work? Those children have watched programs on the TV. Those people have listened to their uncles, to their aunties, to their older siblings talking. And those children have visited places. And some of the people who work in different places have visited the school. Those children have fallen sick. And they have seen how smart a nurse is. They have seen how a doctor touches them gently, smiling and offering them something. And a child begins to develop a passion. And it is important that actually career guidance begins from home. Career guidance begins when a child is to become a driver. That is okay. Now the question will be, they want to become a driver of what? because they have seen somebody driving a trailer, they have seen somebody driving a minibus, they have seen somebody driving a smaller car, and they have liked it. But have you told them that you can actually pilot an aeroplane? And tell them that beyond what you see here, there is also something that moves up there in the air. And so, alongside career, it is to provoke the child or the learner to think, to look at the future. And then, when you, maybe at a later stage now, when you are talking about O-level, because that is where we put a lot of emphasis, instead of laying the foundation right from the word go. By the time a child comes to O-level, I mean, you should have explored all of these options. And then by the time a child comes to O-level, then the work of the careers master or director of studies, depending on who it is at that particular school, would just be to knock off and tie the loose ends together and say, okay, for now, maybe in some courses, sometimes they will tell you now, if you are very good at art, they can actually consider you. You have done art, you have done mathematics, you have done physics. Maybe they can actually, because of the art bit, they can actually consider you more for architecture than somebody who has done chemistry. So then the careers master now comes to say, actually now, this is how things are moving, besides what we use it to know. And then on the other hand is to help the child. Like for example, for long, the thing of oil and what have you was not something for us Ugandans. Now, there is something to do with oil that has come. And I see that universities have actually put in place to equip. Now we have a college in Kigomba that is doing that. So the work then at O-level or at A-level would just be to bring the learner to the current level, to the current state, so that is able to explore or widen the perspective and get all those possible opportunities that are available. And so, then career, issues of career, go with passion. What is a learner passionate about? Because once somebody has developed passion, then the sky is not going to be the limit for that person.
But you know, the challenge we have today is that it is very hard for people who are absent parents to identify the passion of a present child. So before you notice, the child has to identify what they can do.
Then that becomes a challenge for another day, because now you are taking us to parenting. So parents have to wake up. Really, we have to do parents.
And the truth is, by the way, if the passion is not seen in an early stage, before you notice, the child sometimes does what the parent wants them to do. That's why you sometimes hear of young people who say, Daddy told me to do this, so I will do it. Before you notice, they finish the degree and they feel like handing the degree to Daddy.
No, they actually hand over.
Yes.
They
tell you, I went to Makerere and here is what you sent me.
You wanted me to do this and I've done it. Here it is, have it.
And before you notice, they are not ready to practice.
I actually know of some people who have finished very well those degrees that they were encouraged to do by their parents, and after finishing, they later on enroll for the ones that they feel they love.
And they do it with passion.
They do it with passion.
And all that is because the informal education was not handled well. Reverend Walter, what has happened with the informal education which brought young people together with their parents to have informal time with informal discussions, but taking you towards a formal end?
Well, I think some of us who were privileged to have that informal education, it was really a great blessing to us, because our parents really created time for us, and they would make sure that even if they see you making a mistake, they wouldn't necessarily punish you in a very terrible way. They would call you, and that would be a time of sitting you down and making you to know that this that you are doing is going to lead you in such and such a direction, which will not be good for you. But I think the challenge with many of us today is the issue of time. We do not have enough time to sit with our children and be able to know what they are interested in and guide them appropriately. You know, in our homes today we have house helps, and we've let these house helps take up the positions of parents. And these house helps may not be having any, good plans for your children. For them, all that they think about is, have I, cooked for these children? Have I done what I'm supposed to do as a house help? But as far as the future of the child is concerned, they can never attend to them. And so most parents have relinquished their responsibilities to these people. But if a parent is to, intentionally create time for the child, I do believe that bonding with the parent will even give a child, an opportunity to be free with them and share all their heart's desire as far as studies are concerned. But today, many young people do not even have the platform to share freely with their parents, and that already creates a problem, because you get to realize that as a child desires to do something, he is not free to share with the father, he is not free to share with the mother, but goes out and shares with friends. And some of these friends can easily mislead them. And so I want to encourage parents who are listening to us that you need to bond with your child such that a child can easily share with you anything and everything, without, even if it is something that might be funny, but will not fear to share with you, because it is from that point of view that you will discover what the child is interested in and you guide them well. Yeah. Thank you.
That is hard for a society where parents come back very late and the fathers are seen as lions of the house. The moment they reach, everyone finds their level. More so the little one, you're either under the bed or you've covered your head with a blanket and you're pretending like you're sleeping, even when you're very awake.
And maybe also, those days, bringing up a child was also a collective responsibility of the community. If your neighbor sees you doing something that is wrong, will actually discipline you and come and reports to your parent that I found this one doing ABCD and this is what I did. And your parent would actually begin from there and still give you
continuation.
Yes, but that thing today is not there. If you dare touch a neighbor's child, even if you caught them in the wrong, that is going to be a very big issue. And so even if a person sees your child doing something wrong and maybe would love to correct them, you fear the repercussions and then you just leave. So I think it is necessary to reflect and go back to those systems whereby it is not only the parents but also you engage the community.
It is actually a very serious matter, by the way. If you want to take up education seriously, those days we studied from a school that was a little distant from home. But if you dared to go and play by the roadside and anyone who was going on their own business came and found you playing on the road, you'd first get, and that person would actually take you to school. Then the teacher would give you, by the time you go back home, the message has reached home, so you're ready for the ones at home as well. So the community took full responsibility of this kind of things. And you'll notice that there are people who are actually educated, but they don't know how to talk. Not like they don't have the skill, but they talk anyhow. They throw at you a word and you are like, "Che."
And I think like he has rightly said, I think as a parent, it is important that we don't delegate the responsibility of parenting. We don't completely hand over the responsibility of education of our children to the teacher. I am not saying teachers are incompetent, but we have a key role to play. We have a major role to play. What I have done, if I may share a bit of my testimony, is tried to keep in touch with the school where my child is. Keep in touch. The first day I take my child to a class, I want to know who is his or her class teacher, and I want their telephone contact. If I cannot visit, to find out how the teacher is. By the way, I don't go to find out how my child is. I want also to find out how the teacher is. One of the teachers was shocked when I took her on and I asked her whether she was a married woman, because there is a difference between how some of the... So I want to go a little bit of an extra mile, because I want to play an active role in the education of my child. I don't want to leave any gap. But also, secondly, I want to say, parents, that practical time that you take with the child, for example, maybe as a father, you may be going to a farm, you may be going to visit a cousin brother, or you are going to visit your brother, and maybe they have a farm. Why not go with your children? So that you go with them to the farm together, so that they can see the cow, so that they can see how they milk. We still have children who think milk is got from the fridge. Because by the time they wake up in the morning, the milkman has already delivered. And the maid has put it in the fridge because she has already made tea. And so children, when they come back from school, they find the milk is in the fridge. And so it is from the fridge that they bring it out, either make for them a cup or make a cup of tea. And so children have grown up knowing milk is actually got from the fridge, not from the cow. Let's go with the children after eating to wash dishes. That is the fellowship. And when we are teaching them, because some of us, we have given the maid to do all of this work. And what has happened, the maids have actually become women, and better women than some of our own daughters, because we have given them all the responsibility. And yet we are talking about a complete education for a complete person. How does our child become complete? It's both through formal and informal education. For example, now we love these glass plates. We love these glass cups. Why don't we collect, even me as a father, collect plates, collect cups after taking breakfast, after a meal, and you go with the child and you teach the child and you say, when you have actually put soap on this glass plate, don't hold it high like this. Hold it down here. Because with the soap, it will slide from your hands. Now, if you are holding it high here, there are chances that it can slip off your hands, break. There are chances that when it slips off your hands, it can actually hurt your toe. It can actually hurt your leg. So you begin from there, and let me tell you, that child will live to appreciate at a certain point.
A Ugandan father going to wash plates. Real Ugandan father.
The husband happened to leave and go for work, but he had bought everything and placed in the house. The meat was in the fridge, everything that she needed was actually there. Then the man came in the evening and found this young lady crying and asked her what the problem was. And the lady was like, I am hungry. And the guy was shocked. Everything is in the house. How comes that you're hungry? And you know, the response was like, I don't know how to cook. As simple as that. Now, you see, we have some parents actually, if they get a child, when a maid is there, get a child maybe washing plates, we actually punish the child for doing the right thing. Why is the child doing and the maid is just seated there? And you say, you know, so those are the issues that we are having.
And remember here, we are talking about a complete education for a complete person. Now, we have had cases where somebody who has had an opportunity either to go to the US or the UK comes and gets married. Now, my brother, a Ugandan father may not appreciate the need to practically do some of those things like washing plates like we are talking about. Now, if we don't help our children, we are doing a disservice to them. Our children tomorrow are going to have an opportunity to go for a fellowship and study in the United States and study in the United Kingdom. Now, in some of those countries, the cheapest maid you might get is a medical doctor who will only give you 1 hour a day and you pay through the nose. Now, how will you manage? So we have had cases where somebody has gotten his wife, and they have gone to the UK, they have gone to the US. There is a gentleman who had to put his wife after she delivered, got a return a ticket. No, he got a ticket and put her on the plane back home. And he told the parents, teach her how to work. Complete education for a complete person.
It is interesting how you can how you can train a house help and fail to train your own child. Our time is almost getting done. Now, since all of you are reverends here, when you're making your last shots, you will each give us a scripture about education. I hope it exists in the Bible. That is, if it exists anyway. But you'll figure that out. Before we get into that, there was a time everything was about online education, online church, online what, everything was online. Now, Reverend Walter, how effective is online education for a young person in primary, for a young person in secondary, and for that who is in senior 5 and 6 who understands WhatsApp, Twitter, and Instagram?
Well, online education is something that I would not say that is actually bad. Given the generation that we are in and the changes that have happened. But then, for a young person who is engaged in online studies, I do think that there needs to be monitoring that should take place either by the parents or the guardians, the people who are responsible. Because you know there is a temptation of not concentrating on the materials that you are supposed to handle. And you go to those social media platforms and you begin looking out for things that will actually, confuse you the more, defile you. And so it is important for a child who is undertaking online studies to be guided, to be monitored, to make sure that they are concentrating on the right thing. But if you leave them without monitoring, then the online studies will do them more harm than good.
Reverend Francis, with the TikTok in the universities today, how many of your students would pay attention to you in an online class fully for a lesson of 2 hours?
I must admit that it's quite a challenge, because I think this pandemic took us unaware before we were well prepared. And so it's really a challenge that not all the people whom you expect to give you attention can give you attention. First of all, not all of them have those gadgets. So sometimes you will find even when they are online, they are actually sharing. Maybe it is the current lot of freshers, freshmen and women, who were prepared, because then for them they were required at least to come in a laptop so that they are able to go online. So I must admit that is really a very, very big challenge. But I want also to quickly add that.
But are we yet ready for online classes as Ugandans?
Yes, we are, because there is a level at which, even before the pandemic, people had gotten exposed to, social media, because that is basically really use of media. So there is a level at which we had already been exposed to, social media. Secondly, we have relatives, we have friends, we have connections in the diaspora, and people were already using that for getting connections. And so it is just a matter of widening online and making it a little more practical. But it is a challenge, I must admit. It's a big challenge.
Thank you very much. Even when it is a challenge, we still have to move on and uphold certain things so that we are not left behind. Reverend Walter, give me that scripture and then give us your parting shot in a minute.
Well, the scripture that I would love to leave with our viewers is Luke chapter 2 and verse 52. It is just about Jesus Christ. Actually, it's the very best example that we do have for a complete education, for a complete person. It says that Jesus Christ grew in wisdom, that is intellectually. He grew in stature, physically, and in favor with God, that is spiritually, and in favor with men, socially. So for someone to actually appreciate the value of education after going through the system should as well copy the example of Jesus Christ, whereby you don't only look at the intellectual point of it, but all these other aspects, and you work towards it. And when you come out, the society is actually not only looking at the intellectual bit of it, but the product that will come out, how you will be able to, handle situations. Are you resilient enough to resist, the temptations around you and not give up so easily in life? It is only if you are grounded in all those aspects of life. But people who are not grounded in all those areas will, in one way or the other, not not produce what is expected of them at the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend Walter. Reverend Francis, that scripture about education.
Daniel chapter 1, verses 18 to 20. It was a testing time. And in Babylon, the enchanters, the magicians, were the wise men of the day and the wise men of the time. And they were custodians of knowledge and they were custodians of everything. But one mystery completely outdid all of them. And it was only now, but Daniel had the opportunity to mess himself up with his friends. But we are told in chapter 1, verse 8, that Daniel resolved not to defile himself. And we are told when he purposed, he convinced the person in charge. And then later, after they were given about 10 days, they were found actually 10 times better than everybody else who was eating the other food. But the Bible adds that even in wisdom, they were 10 times better than people who are. So don't go for Njaga. Oh, we thinking that it adds you anybody. No, it doesn't. Parents, I want to appeal to you and say it's not too late. Even if your child is at the university, you may not be able to get to the vice chancellor or to the lecturer, but you can get through to your child. Get hold of that child, walk with him, walk with her. This one's in primary, this one's in nursery, this one's in secondary, those ones. Let's move with them, let's work with them. It's not too late. Give them quality time, and you will live to be testified about as a great parent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Reverend Francis and Reverend Walter, for making time to come to Family TV, where we enrich lives. This is the time we had for today. Thank you so much for keeping it here with us on Church of Uganda Family TV. Before I sign out, I want to send my greetings and my love to people around Namuongo. There's a lady called Kathy. She keeps calling and says, you better send me greetings, otherwise you'll be in trouble the next time we meet. Kathy, I have sent my greetings. I hope there is no date there now. But all those who are pursuing education, please do it. If you want to be uncultured, then stay away from education. If you want to be the right person for the right time, the right season, I think you need to pursue education. And to be a complete person, you need to pursue complete education. And complete education comprises of informal education and formal education. How about we wish you a good night? Take care of yourselves.